Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Brilliant Shadows, where we're in a black screen, apparently. Since the oddly intimate and brief conversation in the hot springs, the female guard and Elena, according to the other guards she had asked, had spoken barely a word. In fact, the guards seemed to be avoiding her. Every chance Ash had found to speak with her again had ended with a quick retreat on the part of the soldier. It had become irksome. Ash was about to finally get her chance. She was on duty, one of the few posts that permitted a single guard, and with the shift change about to end, Ash could finally catch her alone. Watching the other guard bid Elena farewell, Ash smiled and strode out from the pillar behind which she had laid in wait. Immediately, panic struck the woman's face. The look was cute on her. Ash.
Hello again, Elena.
Yes. Hello, Lady Ashmar. How might I serve you today, my lady?
I was just passing through and wanted to say hello. Try to keep in touch with friends, you know?
The guard grimaced.
We've barely spoken, ma'am. Hardly counts as a friendship.
Maybe Ash had misread her? But well, there had been something there. Hadn't there been a moment of tension? Elena cleared her throat.
Ma'am, you'll have to excuse me for speaking so bold. But I know where your interests lie, and even if I didn't take issue with the idea of a lord or lady using their position to curry sexual favors from those who serve them, I like men.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry, did I thought...
The guard looked terrified now. I would never use my position to force someone to have sex with me. I am so sorry. There was a moment when we were speaking, I thought that we had a connection.
In the 5 words I spoke.
5 words was a bit of an under-exaggeration, wasn't it?
No, you're right. I just wanted to speak with you, get a read. I repeat, never do something like that. I'm actually glad you were able to straighten me out.
Ash paused.
Figuratively speaking.
Sorry about that, miss.
Ash saved her... Whoa, what am I saying? Ash saw her blush, and for a moment imagined her in the bath again. A knot twisted in her stomach.
It must be awful. There's already a lack of girls to meet around the palace grounds. Some of the other guards complain about it. To think you'd have to find a girl, and then find one who likes girls.
Elena gave her a sympathetic smile.
Of course, I would never want to have a relationship with someone from where I worked.
Ash attempted to smile, but the knot in her stomach grew tighter. Twice. She had done it twice. Well, at least she hadn't kissed the girl this time.
Are you well, Lady Ashmar?
I'm fine. I'm just terribly embarrassed.
If it makes you feel any better, I am too. I shouldn't have accused you of something like that. I haven't met a lord or lady who has ever tried it. It's just a fear I have.
Believe me, it's a valid fear. More than one diplomat has propositioned me while Prude and I were visiting from the mountain. Just remember they cannot actually force you, and should they try, remember you're the one with the spear.
Spears are useful. Elena smiled, and inside, Ash cried. She really had a lovely smile. On the outside, Ash gave a beaming grin.
Light and shadows, I need to get some food in me. Somehow I hadn't realized how hungry I was, if you'll excuse me.
Of course, Lady Ashmar. You have a good evening.
With a curt nod, Ash walked away. Tears blurred her vision, and so it was with a start that she noticed a figure walking beside her a minute later.
That had to hurt.
Oh, Belinda, of course you were watching.
Do you want to make Ashley make us ice cream and cookies and gorge ourselves while reading romance novels? The King's collection is surprisingly phenomenal.
How do you know? Ash turned to Belinda. I guess maybe they're in, public? I do air quotations. Library and not in a very, very private collection.
Where did you come from?
I've been following you.
For how long?
All day. Sneaking is surprisingly easy if you stay far enough back.
Yes, but how much can you hear then?
Why?
Hector says I need to start practicing more physical training, and he says that stealth is essential for a good mage.
Of course he did. Belinda squared her shoulders and took on a serious expression.
At the moment, your magic is remedial, so in a fight, your best bet would be to get the drop on someone. I want you to choose someone and follow them around for the day. At the end of the day, ask if they ever noticed you. Roar, roar, I'm so grumpy, Hector. No, 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 no.
That sounds like something Hector would say.
The roar part?
Yeah. I wish you would just give me a break.
I believe you were the one who started calling yourself his apprentice.
I know, but the light and shadows, I just want a break before I break.
Where are we walking, anyway?
Oh, I don't know. I changed my mind about the ice cream. I'm trying to lose some weight. I think it will make the laps Hector has been running a little less painful.
I was kind of hoping to find a bit of cold comfort.
Well, I know what can help you there. There's nothing else quite as comforting as knowing someone else is suffering with you. Let me tell you about when I confessed to Elfnod.
Oh, I don't know if I want to hear this.
Oh no, please don't. This is going to hurt, isn't it?
It's too late! We are cursed to love those who are not even possessed of the same sexuality. We are bonded. Our stories must be shared. Let's go. It all began a week ago.
Only a week?
Elfnod and I had been getting incredibly close recently. We had been practicing our magic together, and for a time, he was even training me with a blade.
I don't want to hear this.
Before you asked me to join you, right?
Yes. Now, after one hot and sweaty day of practice, we both found ourselves in a changing room, and with a nonchalance that took my breath away, Elfnod stripped up his armor and shirt.
Belinda cooed to herself. No, I don't want this.
Let's just say I fibbed a bit. It wasn't a nonchalance that took my breath away. He was just...
Are we doing this? We're doing this. We're doing the pan up. Belinda paused, looking for the words.
He left me speechless.
You? Speechless? Is that possible? Can that happen now, please?
So it was much appreciated when he broke to silence. He turned to me, his eyes narrow, blinking away sweat as it dripped down his bare body. And he asked me, that was a hard workout today, wasn't it? It was then that I knew I had to tell him.
In the changing room?
I rushed forward, pressing myself against his slick chest, and looked up into his dazzling eyes. I told him, Elfnod, I think you know by now how I feel about you. I've felt this way since the day we were paired. I felt it in my heart, in my bones, in my very soul. We're destined to be together, Elfnod.
You need to stop reading those romance novels, dude.
Then I told him, I love you.
Oh, twisting shadows and blinding light, you didn't.
I did. My confession jumped straight to love.
Dude.
I swear his eyes nearly bugged out of his skull.
Dude. I don't even have my eyes open. I can't. This is, no.
For a moment, he looked like one of those dogs. The ones that look like someone smashed their face in.
Pugs?
A pug?
I hate those dogs. I dislike most dogs, but I don't like the looks of the smushed in face dogs.
Yeah, he just stared at me with his pug face. Then, slowly, he stepped back, still holding my hands. And he says, slowly, calmly, clearly, Belinda, I'm gay. I don't know which hurt worse, the rejection or the embarrassment. Fortunately, I didn't have long to consider it. Because of my rather unstable emotional state, I tried to escape. Only tears blinded me, and instead of charging out of the room, I charged headlong into the half-open door.
Good job. Good job.
Were you alright?
I had a concussion, apparently, but Elfnod had no trouble healing it. He's pretty incredible. That's part of why I fell for him so hard.
And then hit your head, hard, on the door. Ash reached out and put her arm around Belinda's shoulder, pulling her into a hug.
I'm so sorry that happened.
I've already moved past it.
Still, yikes.
Hey, at least you got your mind off your rejection.
The memory of her most recent misfortune returned in a wave to Ash's mind. Ash felt her face twist into a grimace.
Oops.
Good job, Belinda. For a moment, the two stood in silence, shoulders sunk.
Ice cream?
Ice cream.
Perfect choice. With that, they were off to the kitchen, hoping they would find fresh cream and sufficient ice. What? No. No. The letter took the messenger Hockaday. The return reply was succinct? Whatever. We shall leave on the morrow. We have a great deal of interest in this great mage, both his origin and his abilities. A week passed before the heads actually arrived. Though apparently hurried, they took their time approaching the palace, ensuring they had lodgings and then having the horses properly stabled before even beginning the approach.
Are you ready?
Prude gave her a somber nod. Hector patted at his pockets full of black roses and nodded. Ash's own pockets were full as well. She didn't really know why, but there were a comfort.
This idea still terrifies me.
'Cause it's not that great. But at least it's not hummus.
It'll be fine.
I know my curiosity can only go so much longer without being sated.
Why are you guys just gradually getting shorter? Prude pulled Hector in close and the two kissed.
We'll get you back, okay?
Hector nodded and Prude stepped into one of the rooms immediately to the side of the court, hiding behind layers of curtains.
They're coming.
I thought you didn't want to use this form of communication anymore.
Yeah, but your messenger bird is dumb, and they're closing in on her.
Have you decided to do anything about it?
I don't know yet. I don't know what side they're on in this fight.
Not yet. You'd better make your decision quickly. The cultists are closing in. I can sense them.
You have like the perfect villain scientist voice thing going on. I'm pretty sure I've said that already, but that is such a stereotypical villain voice.
Don't you have any
advice? No, I'm done. I don't do this anymore. Too many mistakes.
Please.
Just trust your heart. It's one of the only good ones I know anymore.
That's kind of a compliment. Ash's mind fell silent, save for her own thoughts. Before she had a chance to collect them, Zachariah opened the door, leading the way for Luciana and an enormous cloaked figure. One of her golems, likely, a good form of protection on a long road. The Grey Mages were closing in, if the voices could be believed. They would be rather convenient, and besides, it provided some sense of their motivation if they were about to attack now.
It's good to see you again, all of you. I'm sorry for how things ended last time, but I am afraid the rules are rules.
We understand.
Why is Mr. Warlock in chains?
Did you bring the Rod of Finding?
Luciana's face turned into a mask of shock, while Zachariah's only grew harder. Was this guard supposed to be here? Oh, okay.
Prudence?
Please, the rod.
Zachariah removed the rod from a sheath at her hip. The rod burst to light almost immediately. Zachariah had apparently already performed the spell. She waved it before her eyes and sneered. 2 black dots for Ash and Belinda, a white for Elfnod, and a molded shimmering gray wad where Hector stood.
You always were a monster, weren't you, Warlock?
Weren't they using it near him before, though? Or wait, no, he was staying ahead of them though. When they were actually using that, he wasn't anywhere close. Ooh, interesting. But they probably used it on him at some point. Maybe to test if he had magic? I don't know, whatever.
This is why we asked you here. We believe there are more. Please, I beseech you, use the rod on the rest of the city and aid us in ferreting out the remaining assassins.
Before we do that, please, have your guards leave, and then lock the doors. What we are about to discuss cannot be overheard. We have my golem to protect us in an emergency. Guards will be of little consequence to a Grey Mage anyway.
The king beckoned to her guards, and they did as commanded. As the latches sounded, Luciana seemed to breathe a sigh of relief.
I admit, I had heard rumors of a couple intending to produce a child Grey Mage. But that was so many years ago, and no member of either order ever produced reports of such. I had simply assumed such attempts had bore no fruit.
Either order?
To think I had such a creature under my tutelage for so long. And yet I cannot help but wonder at the purpose of this farce.
How did you know that Hector did not kill my daughter?
Luciana raised her hand and tapped her mark.
You forgot to cover the boy's hand.
You guys are not the smartest, are you? Hector flushed as he looked down to the exposed spider.
But Grey Mages don't lose their mark when they eat another's organs.
No, but the mark changes.
Some might say it corrupts.
How do you know so much?
We are the heads of the orders. We would be remiss if there were any parts of magic we were not well versed in.
Except for all the parts that Ash found, or not Ash, well I guess Ash. All the things Ash figured out, all the things Hector figured out, Elfnod City. So I think there's a lot you're not versed in. Luciana laughed.
It's the primary reason Zachariah was so often at odds with Mr. Warlock.
Fine, you know it was a sham to bring you here. We need your help to find the Grey Mages who are hunting us. We think they're after Ash. We think she may be paired to one. That, or they may be after me.
That's awful presumptuous of you.
Why'd the music stop?
What?
No. They were after Prudence and the king.
Luciana, how do you know of this?
Because, my dearest niece, we hired them.
She's your niece? Luciana tore the cloak from the golem at her side. I also just realized that she just admitted that she hired assassins to kill the king and the princess, and I'm like, oh, she's your niece, huh? Like, that's what I get out of that. The golem was unlike anything Ash had ever seen before. It was wood.
I cannot thank you enough for all your research. I had never imagined how much more effective a golem crafted from wood could be, until I saw your research into plants. I haven't quite gotten reanimation of plants down, but, well, golems were a simple matter for me, and startlingly effective.
You already said that.
Now that we have the doors locked, and all the main players trapped in here with us.
Luciana extended her arm, sickly green energy cooling around each finger.
Golem, kill!
Oh, that was a terrible sound. The creature closed a distance to Hector in a moment, and Ash heard a wet snapping noise as he flew like a ragdoll across the room. Elfnod did not even have a chance to draw his sword at it, as another blow left him bent awkwardly around a pillar. Belinda, right beside him, leapt desperately out of the way of a stomp. Zachariah began to slowly, almost gleefully, draw her blade, marching towards the king. Prude was upon her in a blink of an eye, leaping from the side room. Arm flashing, she drove her straight towards Zachariah's face. They both look pretty cool in that picture.
We're related. Let me guess. That white spiked monstrosity on top of your head used to be red?
Oh, you're her niece. I guess they are married, so yeah, whatever. Okay. Zachariah sneered. Ash became aware that she had been standing stunned. She had to stop. Turning to Luciana, she curled a finger and then arsed a curse at the head mage. Luciana barely moved as the curse dissolved mid-flight. Ash twined a bolt of malignance, boiling green with necrotic energy, and unleashed the wave of rot towards Luciana. The head dissolved it with a single breath. A curse that struck Ash came quickly and sudden. She felt her fingers bend, then curled awkwardly, the bones contorting. Ash could not only barely stifle a scream as she clawed desperately at the distant ball of whiteness, the same she had called upon to empower her reanimation spells. The grip felt almost tangible as she found it. The pain seemed to fade slightly as she looked up to meet the gaze of not Luciana, but her golem. You have blood kind of dripping down, dude. The creature reached an enormous fist high above its head, and Ash reached deeper. Inside her swirled the magics of a pair, black and white intermingling wildly. She slammed her open palms down upon the creature's foot, and felt the sap inside it began to flow. Scars left by the woodsman's axe began to close, the ebony ichor rending its way across open wounds, clotting them shut. New growth burst wildly until, arching across the creature's back, a bloom of midnight leaves began to unfurl. The white-hot green of its eyes faded to a dull gray, then to a lightless black. The creature opened its hands as though seeing it for the first time. It turned to examine its entirety, its leaves seeming to swell as it breathed.
What did you do?
Ash found her feet beneath her and forced herself to stand.
I took your golem.
I don't need it to defeat you!
Yeah, but it's another ally. Ash felt the curse strike like a blow to the head, and then 1,000 more. It hammered with a fury that blinded her. She fell to her knees. Somewhere in the distance she could hear the woman's footsteps click as she came closer.
You dirty little girl! I will find the secret to your magic, and I will ensure that history will write its origin as me. My discovery will change necromancy as we know it, and you'll be nothing more than an unfortunate victim of an assassination!
Pain struck Ash, pinpricks in her hand, and an afterthought to the hammering in her skull. Opening her eyes, she pulled forth a black rose. She gasped, pain lashing at her thoughts, catching the sweet scent of the dead rose. She felt it burn inside her long before she knew it. That's not a rose. That's not what a rose petals look like. Anyways, long before she knew what to do with it. She reached up, desperately clawing the air, arching her hand towards the head as the woman snarled, bearing down on her. Then the air rippled, a shadow cast across reality, and in a bloom of darkness, Luciana fell. The pain stopped immediately when Luciana withered on the floor. Ash couldn't even tell how much of her was missing, but somehow the head still lived. Ash forced herself to her knees. Elfnod and Belinda was still out, though Belinda had dragged herself to Elfnod and seemed to be trying to soothe him back to awareness. At least they weren't dead? Hector was motionless. Even his chest did not rise. Where was Prude? Ash searched the courtroom. On the far side of the courtroom, Zachariah had let go of her sword, the tip of the blade buried deep into the wall. Its length held a motionless King Celeste, and Prude withering wildly. Pierced through the left of her chest, she gasped for breath, blood pouring from between her lips, magic desperately trying to seal the wound.
Prudence!
Got 2 people with 1 sword. Kind of impressive, though I'm not sure if that would actually happen.
The sword belongs to one of the gray mages we hired, you know. Luciana was smart enough to convince me not to bring.
Zachariah stopped mid-sentence, turning back to see Luciana on the ground, almost half of her body seared away.
No.
Zachariah charged towards her left, dropping to her knees, tears in her eyes.
No. No. No, no, no. Nothing was worth losing you, my love. No kingdom was worth this price.
Too late. Zachariah began to blaze with a violent white light, pouring it into the charcoal that remained of the most grievances of her wife's wounds.
Come back. Come back.
Zachariah pressed her head against Luciana's chest, closing her teary eyes, smiling.
She's breathing. She has a pulse. After all this, I will heal her. She may lose an arm, even her legs, but she will never lose me.
Is that enough? Zachariah slowly placed a kiss on the lips of her unconscious lover and stood up, holding 3 stones, remnants of debris.
3 of you left.
Elfnod had finally opened his eyes, and Belinda stared into them, smiling. Her expression suddenly turned blank as a small piece of debris hit the wall behind her. Elfnod looked confused until blood began to pour from a gaping hole in her chest where her heart should be. She collapsed. Another rock ricocheted wildly as it detonated Elfnod's shield.
You've been practicing.
Ash pulled free a fistful of black roses, and drawing in a breath of their violent fragrance, she let forth another gout of the black flames. The inky black washed over Zachariah like water over glass.
An interesting trick.
Golem, stop her!
Ash's voice cracked as she shouted, but the creature seemed to hear, closing in on Zachariah and swinging with all its might. Zachariah met the punch head-on, swinging with all her strength. The wood splintered as she grabbed an arm, tore it free. A kick brought the beast low, and a third strike left him motionless.
Hector never really realized how much power we truly wielded as heads, and yet he dismissed us so easily, as though he always had some trick up his sleeve, a trump card.
Zachariah hefted the enormous beast above her head, and with a motion as quick as an afterthought, sent it crashing into the forms of Elfnod and Melinda.
Tell me, Miss Veronica Ashmar, do you have a trump card?
Maybe, we'll see. Ash reached into her pocket. There's a card! No flowers remained. She tried to draw upon the wells once more, but no spell she could think of seemed enough. In desperation, she threw her strongest curse. Zachariah took it head on, but no hammering pain struck her, no twisting of joints, no boiling of blood, no searing pain, no virulent decay. She merely stood.
I wish I could make your death slow. Let you know exactly how angry I am. But I can only imagine it will be a few more moments before those doors open. Can you hear the ringing in your ears over the pain that you feel right now? You're likely so numb. It wouldn't be worth my time to torture you anyway. Goodbye, Ash.
The blade blossomed through Zachariah's throat and ripped outwards, spraying Ash with a rain of blood. Zachariah fell to her knees, slumped to the floor. The figure in the gray cloak walked over to Luciana, sliced open her throat. Blood loss would kill them both in seconds. The cloak was familiar, a pale gray, reminiscent of... Suddenly it clicked. The figure following them in the rain. The figure she rode past in the snow. This was the Grey Mage. The assassin approached her, reached out their right hand. There was the phoenix mark.
You need to save your friends.
Momentarily stunned, Ash struggled to find her response.
How? Aren't you the paladin in our pairing? I felt that power.
Ash gestured towards her mark. Why are you only like half off the screen? Like, what's going on over here?
What? No, I don't have any powers like that. Spiraling stars, girl. Use the white magic you were using earlier with the plant.
What? I don't know how to do that.
I do.
Hector had finally stirred. The deathly twist in his back seemed to have straightened, but his legs were still broken, bent sharply in the wrong direction at each femur.
Please bring Prude and her mother to me. Get them off that sword.
Ash found them both unmoving and tried to pull the sword free. It remained stuck. The man in the cloak pushed her aside and tore it free with practiced ease that made Zachariah's earlier strength seem that of a child. Tossing the sword aside, he hefted both bodies and brought them to Hector. Hector checked the king first and flinched, moving wordlessly to Prude.
She can still live.
How? You haven't used your light magic since you were a child. Even Zachariah couldn't heal a wound like that.
Yet she could heal a wound of someone who's majority of her body is gone.
I have a plan.
Then why not the king?
She is more broken than I can repair.
Please! Help!
Ash and the cloaked man turned to the rubble of the golem and a pillar that had collapsed on it.
Get him out of there.
Ash struggled back to her feet and rushed to the rubble. Between her and the man, the rubble was gone in moments. And beneath, Elfnar barely held together his shield, protecting himself and the lifeless, wide-eyed body of Belinda.
Please. Help her.
Beneath the hood, the man grimaced. Ignoring the clear lack of acceptance, stupid fruit fly, don't land on my nose! Ignoring the clear lack of acceptance of the grim fate of Elfnod's pair, the man scooped up her body, his hood finally falling back. Ash gasped as the cooking boy carried the body to Hector. The sight was almost enough to distract her. Ew! Was enough to distract her from Hector himself. In Hector's hand was a beating heart. The pale white glow pulsed in its depths, its arteries and veins, and what appeared to be a number of organs snaked wildly around it as he forced it into Prude's chest. The tendrils flailed for a moment before burrowing into her body and dragging the heart into place. The sight sickened her, and she turned her disgust to Hector. It was then that Ash noticed a gaping wound in Hector's own chest.
Please. Save her.
Elfnod was near delirious himself, clearly at least in shock, if not critically injured. He screamed one more time and seemed to fall asleep. Hector grimaced and forced his hand back inside his chest. He did not scream, but as she watched, Ash could hear flesh tearing. A second heart withered, but it seemed to lack the life of the first.
Put this in her chest.
The cook nodded and emulated the action Hector had taken with the first. The dark things settled into Belinda's chest like an animal in a den. Hector closed his eyes and placed his hand over the wound in his chest. Why hadn't the doors opened? Surely the guards should have arrived by now. She could hear the pounding now. Turning, she found the metal rent, twisting the doors together, sealing them shut.
I can't be caught here. Not if I have any hope of stopping the cultists.
The cultists?
The Grey Mages are still coming. You said in your message.
Ash surveyed the carnage.
We're not ready.
No, not the Grey Mages. The Knights of the Blade.
Who?
The boy gestured at the two heads.
I don't have time for that right now. I have to leave.
Please, just tell me who you are. We're paired. That means something, you know.
I'm starting to realize that. But we're about to have company. Take care. We'll meet again.
Please, at least tell me why I wasn't paired to a girl.
There was an odd question. A little bit, but it bothered her more than she cared to admit.
Well, I actually am a gal.
A hand passed over the boy's face and revealed a face almost as alien as it was beautiful. Black skin like blue ebony. Okay, and long flowing locks of hair as white as the purest snow. She had eyes that shone like polished jade, and her lips stained a dark red peeled back to reveal perfect teeth save for canines just a shade too long to be human. I think you were reading some of those books Belinda was talking about earlier with this description. Just saying. She twitched ears roughly 7 inches long and leaned in close. Ash smelled fire and cinnamon on her. Okay. She was the most beautiful person Ash had ever seen.
My name is Tara, but try to keep calling me Cooking Boy, and do your best to keep the whole changeling thing a secret.
But did you actually call him cooking or her Cooking Boy out loud? Did you actually do that? Wow. With another word, she changed back, and with a single backflip, you can only exit with a backflip. Only way to do it. Disappeared through the second-story window she had apparently broken to get in. The door gave way, and the guards rushed in. Court magicians rushed alongside them, the scene which was consumed around her as all parties involved received attention. The voice asked her again and again if she was okay. She couldn't have said who asked.
I'm fine.
It was all she could manage. Her heart was beating too loud to hear her own thoughts. Ending 1. Blinded by the light.